Welcome to the Cultivating Business Growth podcast, bringing you bi-weekly discussions designed to help you grow your business and create the lifestyle you desire. Elevate your business with proven strategies from virtual CFOs, CPAs, and business advisors. We discuss real-world challenges solved with actionable steps that get you the results you need both in business and building the life you deserve.
Thank you for joining us for episode number 179 of Cultivating Business Growth, brought to you by Willow Virtual CFO. Adding a location is often treated like a milestone, but it's one of the fastest ways to break a healthy business. By the end of this episode, you guys are going to have a clear framework to evaluate expansion before signing that lease or hiring a team. If you're busy and feeling maxed out, that doesn't automatically mean that it's time to expand. Today, we're going to be breaking down expansion into a simple scorecard, demand, cash, and capacity so that you can make this decision with clarity instead of pressure. So Katina Peters, partner here at Willow Virtual CFO, thank you so much for joining us and helping to break down this sometimes elusive idea of expansion is going to fix the problems of I'm feeling like we need to grow and feeling this pressure. And sometimes I think it's just a Band-Aid that people try to put on like, oh, I'm just going to hire more people. That'll fix the problem. But there's some things to look at before that.
Yeah, I mean, expansion is a huge undertaking as a business in a lot of ways too, financially, logistically, et cetera, et cetera. It's a lot to consider, and it's something that you really need to be really careful about too, because it can definitely cause a lot of problems as well. So yeah, we're going to talk about some of those things to look at, but I think it's definitely a huge thing if you're considering, oh, do I need more space or et cetera, to really look through and think through all these things ahead of time.
Yeah. And we want to keep it exciting. It should be an exciting step in your business that's not to say it's going to take away all of the stress, but something that you know is a good choice for your business and that you feel, at least with a certain level of certainty, that, hey, we're making the right move here. So that's what we're trying to answer here in today's episode. How do you know if adding a location is smart or maybe you're moving prematurely?
Yeah. And I think, like I said, hopefully you're catching this before you do an expansion or what have you. But like Megan said, expansion is exciting. That usually means that you are growing and things are getting busy and, maybe you're running out of space and those types of things. So those can always will be really great things. I think like I said, the issue just becomes making sure that the business can handle that expansion and having those things laid out ahead of time. So some of the most common failures happen, like we talked about, financially. So, when you're doing an expansion, whether you're buying a building or leasing or what have you, you're locking in fixed costs. So those fixed costs are going to stay there, right? You can't just get out of them generally, at least not easily. Right. And
right.
Definitely painfully if you have to do it, if you're able to get out of them, still painfully. So those costs are, going to be there, whether your revenue grows or not, right? Those types of things. Mm-hmm. So you need to watch, when you're taking on those fixed costs, that you have that financial ability to comfortably do so. Another thing, like we talked about, logistics, like systems aren't ready. If you have more than one location, are you able to cross communicate between those locations? What are you going to do in each of those locations? How are they going to interplay? Things like that. Because, when you're all in one place, one building, et cetera, you don't have to have the same types of systems to handle things that are going on in a day-to-day business. When you're splitting things up and expanding into another location, especially if it's, it doesn't really matter if it's across the street, if it's down the road, if it's another city, you're still splitting things out, and you need to make sure that your systems are going to be able to integrate in still, and you're going to be able to, have that daily input, communication, finances, all the systems that you're dealing with. So that's something that, there's a lot of pre-planning that needs to go into that. And then if that's not done, and steps are taken too early, that's where a lot of failures can happen as well. And then cash flow. I know we talked about, cash is king, right? So cash flow in a business. So, we talked about just the ability to handle fixed costs, but not only from a revenue and expense perspective, but cash flow perspective, especially when you're first moving, right? You're going to have additional expenses up front. You got to, maybe buy equipment, computers, etc. You maybe have some leasehold improvements that you have to do inside the place that you're looking at taking. So there's usually a bigger cash infusion up front that you need to make sure that you're ready for. And then the ongoing maintenance and costs of that. So want to make sure too, you're thinking of ancillary costs, not just the rent, but what about the utilities? What about, so all the things that are going to go along with having that additional location. So those are the three areas that people kind of get themselves into trouble normally that we see. So we wanted to just point those out. So.
Yeah. And ideally, the goal of expansion should be to reduce pressure overall in your business. Obviously, there's going to be a time during the expansion and in the middle of it, you might feel a bit more, right? Sure. But you don't want to increase it overall into the future of like, oh my gosh, now I have these 2 places to run, or now I've expanded my team so large that it's not working. So yes. That's the whole goal of creating this scorecard and taking a look at these things prior to and being proactive about all of that.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Let's talk about the expansion scorecard and just kind of give us an overview of the important aspects that we should be looking at.
Yeah, I think you definitely want to be looking at, demand, and then likely that's kind of already in play if you're, looking to reduce that pressure, right? Because you're probably feeling that pressure of there's too much going on for this space that we have, here. But you want to make sure that that demand is not just temporary. Obviously, you want to make sure that that's something that if you're expanding into a new area for potential sales, that's another reason for expanding as well, right? So is that the right area to go into? Is there the demand of customers that you need in that area? So looking at it from an overarching demand from a company-wide perspective, and also geographically in that location, if you're looking to expand maybe into another city or state or something like that, what can we estimate, we can have from a sales perspective there, and, conservatively, look at it from a runway perspective. We think it's going to probably slowly increase if these customers don't know us, right? We're coming into a new market, things like that. So just looking at those kinds of things from a demand perspective. Again, cash, we're going to make sure we have that cash flow saved up, either in the business currently in savings, reserves, and things like that. Always my preferred methodology of going through it. But there's also, do we need to get a loan for this expansion, or just have a line of credit in case things don't quite go like we think they're going to go? We definitely would want to run some financial and cash flow type projections to see, where our crunches might be. Again, it would be running it. You would want to make sure that you have, or in my opinion, you have enough capital saved up, and that you run the projections and that things are positive, but you have the, ability, should things not go exactly how you project, as life usually does. So, and if it's less than, you're not selling as much as you thought of initially or something like that, you have a little bit of leeway in there too, some built-in caveats of being able to provide more cash flow from, your recurring operations, and like I said, worst case, a debt or line of credit situation to get you through, so you can bump those numbers up sales wise as well. So capacity is a big, side of this too. You may be expanding because you need more capacity for people, or if you're expanding again because you're looking to enter into another market, you have to build that capacity in that market too. As far as your team, are there the right types of people in that area that you can hire? Do you have contacts, or can you make some, contacts so you can get some good people? So making sure that you're, building up that capacity in that location. Also looking at the capacity of your operations team, your finance team, those types of things. Are you going to be able to absorb the additional workload transactionally, et cetera, that's going to generate on your operations side of the business as well, no matter, where they're located. So that you want to make sure that you can keep up, with what's going on there and have hiring plans in place. You may hire ahead depending on where your capacity, or maybe it's okay when we hit X number, then we need to be hiring, certain roles. So again, building in not only a financial projection into what's going on, but also like capacity projections, hiring plans, marketing plans, things like that when you're looking at doing an expansion.
Okay. So let's dive into the part one, or the first part of this scorecard, which is demand, because I think there's a couple things in here that on its face, it may be easy to say, yes, we have huge demand. We're meeting that. But when you dig a little deeper, the answer may not be as clear as the high level. Yes. So let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think it's good to sit down when you're considering all these things and ask yourself some questions. So we have some questions here that you can include, I guess, in the asking of yourself or your leadership team, whoever is working through the possible considerations of expansion. So when we're looking at demand, again, we want to be repeatable, reliable, proven, and hopefully independent of just you as the owner, right? We want to have, when we're expanding the business, as you said, we don't want to create more pressure on the owner or the leadership team. There'll be a little bit of pressure to get things happening, but then from there, it needs to kind of have legs of its own, right? So asking some questions like, are you turning people away consistently? Do you feel like there's a lot, still inflowing or not? Are you able to keep up with that? You have waiting lists, things like that maybe would cause an expansion if you're going to expand in the local area. So I think turning people away, from you just don't have the capacity to take on more work perspective. So that could be a good question to ask. And I know we touched a little bit on this, but is that demand steady too? Is it not a bubble? Is there something special going on that's creating a bubble? So it's not going to continue, because obviously once you sign on to an expansion and putting a lot of assets and effort into an expansion, you have additional costs and things that you're absorbing and time and energy. And you want to make sure that you have that consistency going forward as much as possible. Have our little crystal balls are always fuzzy, but looking at, okay, do we have what we need to continue this expense to make it worthwhile, to get a good return on our investment? So asking that. And kind of getting down to the nitty gritty in that question too. I think the more we dig into a question, the more comfortable and confident we can get in that question. Like, okay, yes, we do. And here's why, here's the numbers we think we can get. And this is how many customers we think we can get. And, being very specific on that and driving, that's why I say, again, looking at it from the marketing angle, so, okay, if we think we need this many customers to sustain this new location, how are we going to get those customers and what service lines are they going to be? And in order to do that, how many leads do we need? Just really working into those numbers, because sometimes it looks great on paper until you break it down and you see, maybe that's a little, more than we can expect, or, oh no, it's great. Yeah, we feel like we can really hit those targets and we're good. So making sure that we have that ability to really just break it down into the pieces and parts to be realistic about what can be accomplished. So also looking at the current structure of the business as well. You don't want to take on more than you can chew, so to speak. So you want to make sure your current operation is running and you're asking your question, are we optimized as far as pricing currently, hours that we're putting in, and efficiency and capacity in our hours, our systems, are they running well? We don't want to have systems and a lot of problems in our current, status, I guess, as a business, and then try to expand because that's just going to add a lot of extra stress and things. So we want to, make sure that we've kind of got our house in order and running well, et cetera. Obviously, if we did answer the question that we're turning people away, maybe we can increase our prices a little, get our systems a little more efficient, get, things more stabilized, build up that cash flow and some capital to then do an expansion from there. So we want to kind of, as a business, we need to choose what's the best direction for the business and where should we put our efforts. And so we look at, weighing those options out. So sometimes the expansion is not the best place to put your efforts at first, and maybe pushing that down the road a little bit potentially. So
yeah, that's why I think this scorecard is so important, because it maybe expansion looks like the best answer, but you haven't considered, maybe my employees could work longer hours, or maybe we do need to take a look at increasing our prices, or it could be a couple simple modifications that, maybe that'll only carry you for the next year, but then for sure, okay, well, now our prices are where the market will tolerate it, and I feel more confident in the expansion at this point too. So that's great.
For sure. Yeah, we can definitely think through a lot of outside the box ideas too, like you said, working more shifts, offering more flex, people working different spaces, things like that before you commit to potentially another location. So yeah.
Great. All right. Now, the second part of our scorecard is cash. So let's dive into that a bit more.
Okay. So we talked kind of more overarchingly about cash being something that we need, et cetera. But again, I guess mostly the core question is, can it absorb the additional expenses that we're looking to have? And especially in a situation where we are ramping maybe slower than we expect that we would in this new location. So if we're, expecting new revenues to come in either, if we're just adding space and it's the current business, or if we're going into another location, but our ramp up doesn't meet the expectations that we initially projected, where would that leave us? So it's kind of like a plan A, plan B consideration we want to be looking at to make sure we still have good coverage, et cetera. So if our current cash flow, hopefully the ideal situation would be our current cash flow would cover those fixed costs right away. So we have, some room as far as that goes, and we're able to use those cash flow dollars that are coming in monthly from the current business, and we will be comfortable with the new location while we take the time to ramp up, again, in case it does take a longer time. So that runway, we need to look at that runway. What does that look like? What are we committing to, either a lease or a purchase, as far as number of months, years, et cetera, in there? And how does that look with our runway if we have lags in the revenue expectations? So do we have that runway? First of all, do we have the current cash flow to help cover it? Do we have a runway that gives us sufficient time, through there? And so those are the two questions so far. And if we choose to expand something by debt, and I, again, I'd be careful with that. I'm always careful with debt in general, and in business and in life. But that doesn't mean debt is always bad, especially in the case of if you're looking to expand and you as an owner or partner group wants to own the building that you're expanding into. Maybe you're just looking for a larger location or something like that, or it could be a second location. But typically you're going to purchase with debt, right? That's pretty common. You're going to go to the bank and get a mortgage. You're going to purchase. So you want to look at that. That's a longer term obligation. Can make very smart business. It can be very smart business wise, as far as able to generate your own equity. Your business is going to be helping to pay that mortgage. Ultimately, you have an asset then that you can sell down the line. You're not just expensing that lease, and it's going to somebody else. Those types of things. You can get debt to fund other means of expansion, depending on your business. You have to have lots of equipment or something like that, or a large leasehold improvement adjustment, things along those lines. If you're looking to do those types of things, again, you want to watch that cash situation, because even in a debt scenario, you want to be in a pay down situation, not in a, it just stays there or increases over time. You don't want to dig yourself a hole as far as that goes. So are we using debt? Are we using it wisely? Is it a comfortable level? Are we going to have a good return, based on the debt that we're using there? I'm going to take a look at those things.
Okay. So I think that's another important piece. I mean, obviously there's these three big chunks that we're looking at, but cash and really being honest about, okay, it'll work if I get it in this 6 months and that's it. And that's all I have. And that that's not how life goes or how business goes. You're going to, that 6 months is going to turn into 8, 9, 10 months. And so making sure that you have that buffer on, okay, I think we can do it in 6 months, but I have enough to double that if we need to, or,
Right.
so that it doesn't have to be that perfect situation, because life is rarely that perfect situation as it unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
So, very important there to be honest as you're looking at that situation there too.
Yes. And we'll definitely celebrate if we end up in that perfect or better scenario. I'd rather, be very excited and celebrate all of that than be like, oh no, now what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So that brings us to the third part of our scorecard here with capacity. So how can we run our business well without us individually as the owners being everywhere all at once? Because that becomes another issue as you grow.
Yes. And that's, again, kind of coming back to that whole systems side of things, right? Do we have a good system and a good team infrastructure to where I'm, as owner of the business or partners, whoever might be running the business, I'm not just overextending myself as a person either,
right.
In this, at least in the longer term. Like if it's a couple months of getting everything up and going and it's a little crazy, and we're willing to accept that, great. But obviously we need it to be sustainable in the long term. So some of the questions you can ask to see, can the business run well without direct input from those people, are things like, do we have systems that are well documented and we're gathering all their new term I think they've been hearing lately, tribal knowledge out there of all the people. A lot of people keep a lot of stuff in their heads and it's not written down. And then, you lose that person and then you're dragged back in because you're trying to, get the next person trained into what that other person had all in their head. So we want to make sure that we have good systems, documentation, direction, and that knowledge is being captured, not encapsulated, but captured, and then hopefully encapsulated in a system that it can carry forward of training and things that can be followed. That way it's, again, it doesn't fall back in your lap. So it's not only having the right people, but those documentations, because stuff happens with people. They get other jobs, they have sicknesses, they, whatever might happen, you can't rely on that person. It's just always going to be there potentially. So that's a good one to do, and to start making sure that you have those ducks in a row. And, what about, can someone else run the day-to-day operations? Do you have to be there every day, or do you have a team that's, you can rely on a day-to-day basis? And, obviously you're going to be involved in big decisions and things like that, but can it kind of run without you being involved? That's a big question, because when you're expanding, and looking to enlarge whatever is going on, if you don't have that in place, it's just going to put the stress back on you. And ultimately it's going to fail at some point because you can't extend yourself that way. So you want to make sure that you have those in place and that you're, again, able to add to the team as needed to keep that happening. So making sure that your business is in that situation. Otherwise getting it into that situation before you look at taking on more and expanding. Okay. The other one, let's see, is, looking at your customer experience right now. Is it consistent? Are they happy? Are you, having good experiences with your customers having good experiences with you and vice versa? Normally everyone's happy, right? But you want to make sure that, you have that strong base, that they're happy, that you've got a good system in place to provide good, valuable service to them, and that they're going to be repeat customers, that it's going to expand out, because that is definitely something logistically that can sometimes fall low on the totem pole when you are in an expansion situation. It's like all of a sudden, things are so busy with everybody that something starts to get dropped and not done as well. And we don't want that customer service experience to become a problem because we're growing larger. We want to make sure we maintain that, and we have a good system for making sure that that's in place. So
great. So now, how do we tie those three pieces together to start making a decision or make this puzzle kind of fit together in okay, well, here's what we need to work on, or yes, we're ready?
Yeah, I think, and I know we're putting a lot of things out there that you're like, oh, geez, I should just never expand. There's a lot to think about, but that's not what we're doing. We want to make it a successful expansion. So let's just keep that in mind too. So like, not everything's going to be perfect. Not everything, is going to go the way you think it should or go according to plan. And we understand that, and that's just not how life works. And we get that too. So I just want to kind of pause for a second and put that out there. This is for making sure you have a good step out. So when you're going into doing those types of things, that you're, going in eyes wide open, and that you're able to be confident in that decision and to make it the most successful that it can be. So these scorecard items, you need to be passing on an overarching level, all three of these things. Does that mean every single detail is going to be perfect or not need some work? Of course not. It's always going to be, there's some things that need to happen, but you want to make sure that you don't have a big, like, stop, pause, don't move on from here on one of them. You want to make sure that all three of them are in sufficient pass order. So, again, and if you feel like in one of those three areas, you do kind of have that stop red light, that doesn't mean that you can't expand at some point. But, our recommendation would be that you stop, focus on improving that area of the business in different ways. There's different options depending on which area it is. Get that strong, get that ready, and then you have the green light, right, to move forward as far as that goes. So it doesn't mean never. It just means get your house in order in these areas to make sure that you're going to have a strong, successful expansion. So, okay. Yeah. So that's, so look at the scorecard as a helper in should I move forward or not, as a when to expand, what to fix first, if you need to fix some stuff. So I would definitely do those things, because the one thing we want for all our business owners is success in the numbers that they're putting out there. So we want to make sure that we're making wise decisions as we go. Yeah.
And that can show you how to protect those margins and your own sanity and the sanity of your leadership team too. So those are important things to protect and manage as you consider these things. So before we wrap up, can you help us just with some practical takeaways that business owners could look at for today in considering expansion?
Just a couple little things to keep in mind for sure. So one thing to keep in mind, we're all business owners. We get excited about things as our businesses are growing and, doing more stuff. And it's pretty cool. It's like one of our kids growing up, right? Kind of thing. So one thing to really just keep in mind, maybe reality check. So expansion is a strategy, not a reward. So we want to make sure, is it exciting and is it cool and all those things? Just that it definitely is, but it's a strategy to get things to the next level. And we don't want to just do it because, oh, yay, now I have this reward that I expanded. Look at me. Kind of thing.
I would expand it this year and we're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So your demand, again, we talked about, we need a proven demand, market research, things like that to make sure we have that demand that's going to support our projections. cash needs margin for error. Like we said, there's no projection ever in the world that's ever been perfect. So we need to make sure we build in some margins for cash. I would also say margins for sanity a little bit too, making sure we got those margins in our lives, right? So cash margins, we want to make sure we keep those. And again, systems. We can do a lot as business owners and partners and be the hero of things, but ultimately those need to be supported by systems, right? Because, you'll wear yourself out like we talked about. So capacity requires those systems to be in place. Growth requires those systems to be in place. So I want to make sure we're doing that. Okay. And like we talked about before, sometimes the best expansion decision is not yet. We're going to fix this and then we'll come back to it. So sometimes it's a not yet decision, not necessarily a not ever decision, but we want to make sure we're making it smart, whichever it is.
Great. Well, as we wrap that, I want to, as always, encourage our listeners to be looking at your financials, feel confident in where you are, where you're headed, review those last 6 to 12 months, and then review with your CPA, or if you don't have one, give us a call. We are available to help with all of these things that we talked about today as well. Katina, I don't know if you want to kind of give people an overview of, like they can come here and you've helped with these decisions in the past, right? Like analyzing what this
absolutely. Would look like. Yeah, we would get together, build a good projection, take a look at these scorecard items together, help you think through it. We've been through this and having a lot of experience working with other businesses, making these considerations is helpful. Like, if this is the first time you've come across this, it's a lot to think through. And just having somebody with some experience and asking the right questions and telling you the hard truths sometimes or telling you exciting, truths as well. We get excited about too, but we even like coming back around. Like you said, if it's not yet, it's okay, let's work on the things. Let's build a roadmap to make this happen. So yeah, it's definitely good to have somebody on your team to work with like that.
Great. So if you're interested, feel free to visit willowcfo.com/contact and book a strategy call with us. You can talk to one of our CPAs and get a sense of if this is the right fit for you, if you're looking for that financial partner and help with growing your business. You can also subscribe and share Cultivating Business Growth so that you don't miss an episode. Keep that momentum going, and we will see you next time.